Good afternoon. Good morning to you, those that are on in the Pacific time. That is where I am. I am in Phoenix getting ready to, get on a flight to go to Chicago. I am so excited to be speaking for Lexus Central and their very first women's conference on Friday. But this isn't about me, this is about you, and I am so excited that you are here. I had a bit of a hard time preparing for this live today, and the reason why is I couldn't quite decide on the topic. But then I figured the best way to demonstrate our very three-star industry. Now, I know there are people and dealers out there that do it right, but the majority do not, is by explaining to you why and how I got into the industry and then what happened in my recent car buying experience. Okay, but before I get in there, good morning, Allison. Good morning, Doug. Hey, Tracy. Thank you for being on. And so if you've heard me speak, you know that I got into the industry because I had a series of really awful car buying experiences. Not only were the experiences from a human perspective just atrocious, I mean, not being greeted, not having, the amount of time it took to purchase the car, not having anything to do for the wait time, no personal touch. It was really awful from a woman's perspective. I literally couldn't give my money away. I'll never forget the day I packed all my kids into the car, and that was my Nissan Rogue at the time, the only car that I had. I backed out of my driveway and headed to the local auto mall. And when I pulled into Nissan, because that's where you go first, is usually the vehicle that you currently have, I went into, let's hold it back there. I turned around to my kids and I gave them the please, please, please behave speech, because you know what kids do. They love to hop in cars and play in cars. And it is very hard to purchase a vehicle and be focused with that. So I gave them the please behave speech. They said, yes, mom. Okay, mom. Of course, mom. The moment I opened the door, they made a beeline for the dealership door. They flung open those doors, and then they separated into three different vehicles. Oh my gosh. So I spent the better part of 10 minutes to get them all into one vehicle where they are playing. So I had them contained, and I waited, and I'm not joking when I say this, over 17 minutes to be greeted. And I will tell you this, while I'm working with dealers, I do actually go and secret shop them. And that wait is still happening today. That wait time is still happening. Anyways, back to my story. Finally, about 17 minutes later, a young man saunters over. And when I mean saunters, gosh, his eyes were beating between me and my kids in the vehicle and back to me. And I could just, if you had a bubble over his head, I could just see it saying, oh my gosh, I do not want to serve this woman and her kids. Well, he came on over. He stretched out his hand. He introduced himself. And before I could say my name, he asked, is your husband here? I could not believe it. I said, no, actually, I don't have a husband, but I won't be purchasing a vehicle from you. I grabbed the kids, got in my Nissan Rogue, and drove to the next dealership. I had very similar experiences, 7 dealerships before I bought one. Now, I'm going to fast forward to just about 2 weeks ago, just over, or just under, I should say, about a decade of being in this industry. Kevin, my fiancé, was ready to buy his dream car. Now, I don't know if you all know, but women are the decision makers, and he hadn't bought it yet because he hadn't convinced me that it was the right purchase. Finally, I was like, okay, babe, if you want it, go for it. He's like, you sure? And I said, yes. Now, we are in Phoenix, Arizona, as I mentioned, and so we wanted to buy it here so that we could drive it back to Northern California, which is where our home is. So we have a puppy with us, and Phoenix won't fly them. Anyways, big long story. So we bought it in Phoenix, Arizona. The afternoon we decided to do this, we walked out of the condo that we're renting to get into an Uber, and he looked at me and he said, I don't want to go and buy this car. I'm like, but babe, it's your dream car. What are you talking about? He goes, I don't want to step into a dealership. I don't want to be taken advantage of. I don't want to be ignored. I don't want to listen to all the roundabout of the things that I need and this and that. There was zero excitement around buying this vehicle. Zero. Now that broke my heart. How many of your customers, when they enter your dealership, are actually not excited to enter your dealership, but they need the car, they want the car, so they have to come to you? You have this incredible opportunity to make somebody's day. They're already expecting to be disappointed. And disappointment is expectations not met. So now if their expectations are so low, you don't have to do much in order to surprise and delight them. I wish that was the case for us. So we arrived at the dealership, got out of the Uber, and there was this young gentleman waiting at the door, greeting people as they walked past, greeting the ups, as I've heard it being said in the industry. He put out his hand, not for me. He didn't even look at me, but for Kevin. He ignored me till we sat down at the desk. I couldn't believe it. Kevin said exactly what he wanted. Now, when I have said, if anybody has spoken to me, seen me on stage, listened to one of my events, you know that I believe that every single one of your guests knows the make, the model, the trim level. They know the financing rate and leasing rate. They know probably more about the vehicle than your sales associates do. And that theory proved true. I could not understand how out to lunch this sales associate was. Now, he was green. He was kind. Once we got past the whole threshold of ignoring me, he did ask, so what do you do for a living? I'm like, do you really want to know? And he said yes. And ever since I explained that, from that moment on, his approach to us was a little different. But anyway, Kevin knew exactly what he wanted. He knew the make, the model, the trim level. He even got pre-approved for financing, so he knew he was qualified to buy it. He went in for an Hummer EV, the Omega, which is the top of the line, MSRP of $148,000. And we got treated worse than when we buy a $7 latte at Starbucks. This just astonished me. Okay, so we go through the whole thing. We test drive. The kid knows nothing about the vehicle. He actually has to pull it up all online, and Kevin knows more. I felt bad for him. So one of our tests, we drink a lot of Starbucks. So this Hummer needed to get through the Starbucks drive-thru. So we took him through the Starbucks drive-thru. We did a little bit of reverse CX and bought him a caramel macchiato. He was stunned. He's like, nobody has ever done this for me. And I'm like, well, enjoy. We got back to the dealership, started doing the paperwork and the whole back and forth. And I need you to sign here, and I need to take that offer back to the finance office. And we went back and forth a few times, saying we want this, we don't want that, so on and so forth. And then the wait starts. We were put into their waiting room and said, my finance manager has your deal. I don't know how long it's going to take, so just wait here. We have some popcorn here and water there. I got up to go get some popcorn, y'all. There was no popcorn in the machine. It was dirty. Nothing had been popped in a while. Okay, got a bottle of water, sat back down. An hour went by. Not a finance manager came out. Not anybody came out to see if we were okay. Finally, the kid comes by and asks if we were okay. And I said, look, can I speak to your finance manager? I mean, we are pre-approved. This shouldn't take this long. About 5 minutes later, so now we're about an hour and a half into waiting. 5 minutes later, the finance manager comes out. Gosh, was he rude. Didn't even look us in the eye. Brought us back into his office, says, well, I've been waiting, and I called them 3 times. Very defensive, which is the bank. I'm like, can you try one more time while we're sitting here with you? And he did. And oh, lo and behold, that person picked up right away. And within 10 minutes, we were financed. But I don't know what he was doing while we were waiting. It was, and I asked him, I said, is this the normal process where a customer waits? And I was playing a little dumb because he didn't know what I did. And he said, oh yeah. And if you felt like it was a long time, well, that's on you. It actually wasn't that long. He did not, so he was rude. He did not make eye contact. He did not try to make conversation. He was completely rude to Kevin, writing down numbers, not even speaking to us, passing the paper back and forth. Anyway, so that 10, 15 minutes in the office before we were finally financed and buttoned up was just awful. We put a deposit down on the vehicle before we had financing approval. We had to go back and up the deposit a little bit, which was fine. And there was no congratulations. There was no, wow, thank you. And did I mention the MSRP of this vehicle? $148,000? Yeah, there was nothing. And then we learned the vehicle wasn't ready. So we had already been there about 3 hours. Vehicle wasn't ready. So I looked at the kid and I said, hey, I know you have loaner vehicles. We'd like to go get some lunch, or dinner, I should say. And we, showed up in an Uber. And he said, oh, let me check on that. Jumped through a whole bunch of hoops, got ourselves a loaner vehicle, went and had dinner, came back at 7 p.m. We gave him an extra 2 hours. Vehicle wasn't charged. It wasn't washed. And it was delivered in the dark. There was no incredible feeling for spending that money, for buying a dream car. There was no explanation of the vehicle. It was, here's your keys. See you later. Now, I know that a lot of you do not deliver vehicles this way. I know your system and processes are probably way more streamlined. I mean, I hope, but this was a random dealership in Phoenix, Arizona. And I can only hypothesize that if I walked into that dealership and received that experience, most dealerships are doing the same thing. It stood out to me, the test drive was okay. The greet could have been better. I was the decision maker. He waited to purchase it till I was okay with it. The woman, by the way, makes 85% of all decisions when in a coupled relationships. And she also outbuys men and purchases 65% of all new vehicles. Your female consumers are your most influential consumers. She's where the money's at, so treat her right. But it was the financing and the wait time, that dull moment. And I don't know if I'm going to, actually, I think Allison, you're on here. We'll have to send out to everybody who's on this live the graph of the emotions that customers feel when buying a vehicle. It is like this roller coaster of emotion of, from looking at the vehicle, I'm excited, I'm elated, oh my gosh, and test driving, it's incredible, and then crash. The crashes during the F&I, they become upset and confused and anxious. And then while they're waiting during wait time, that upset, that confusion, that anxiety, I think it even says depressed in the graph. And then when they finally get to drive away in the car, they're feeling great again. But everything in between goes completely into the dumps. And so I'll take a step back here. When you are designing an experience, you need to be mindful of every single touch point. And the best piece of advice I can give you when looking across the guest journey and identifying all these touch points, you want to decide how you want your guests to feel at each touch point. When you decide how you want them to feel, and it should be excited, it should be elated, it should be happy, it should be those up and up dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin fueled hormones. You have to design that touch point, that experience backwards from that emotion. You want to ensure you deliver that emotion. And with that, with knowing that the financing touch point, the wait time touch point, and the delivery touch point is so important and the emotions are so low, I would say you want to start there. So if you do daily huddles, if you talk to your team, go back and talk about what that finance touch point looks like and how do you want your guests to feel during that interaction. Then take a look at what you currently do that's probably very transactional and does not have your guests feeling incredible, does not have your guests feeling happy or elated. It has your guests feeling frustrated, excited, nervous, anxious. I forgot to mention when we were waiting, Kevin said, I'm like, are you excited, babe? You're getting in your car. He goes, oh, I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop. So not only are your guests not excited before they come in to purchase from you, they're waiting for the other shoe to drop while you button up your paperwork. They go through this emotional roller coaster, and it is your job, it is your responsibility to create an experience that surprises and delights and makes your guests feel special. Okay, I'm going to come over here. I have some comments. And hi, good afternoon, Jamie. Doug says, the event of buying a car initially is so exciting and goes crashing down with a poor experience. 1000%. We will actually post, Allison says she's got the graph, so we will post it here after the links in the after this live in the comments. Tracy, dealerships sell cars all day, every day, but forget people don't buy cars all day, every day. It's the second largest purchase anybody makes in their life unless they're mega rich and they're buying multiple homes and private jets. Yes, Tracy, you have to celebrate that human. Kevin would have had the best experience had he not felt like the other shoe was going to drop. He would have felt so good about his purchase. He's been dreaming of this car for over a year. He's done all the research. Doug, exactly, for buyers, it's like Christmas Day for kids, all excitement and full of wonder. And it really is. Y'all are responsible to design an experience that helps promote a feeling of laughter and happiness, that releases dopamine and serotonin and oxytocin, all the good feeling hormones. That's your responsibility. So almost a decade later, I went to purchase a vehicle. Well, I guess Kevin did technically. It's his vehicle, but I decided it was okay. And it was the exact same experience that I had almost a decade ago, which got me in to this industry. Now we are working with, at Now's Non-Negotiable Ventures, incredible, forward-thinking, people-first dealerships and dealer groups and OEMs. But there are somewhere, and I'm misquoting, I'm sure, but somewhere around 17,000 dealerships in the United States. What we're doing is just the tip of the iceberg. Who we're able to impact is just the tip of the iceberg. That's why we created the Now Summit. It's why we are creating the Now membership, which is going to be launching in January, and I cannot wait to tell you all about it. But the summit is coming up October 7th and 8th in Denver, Colorado. And that journey that I spoke about, we're actually going to roll up our sleeves. We're going to dig in and we are going to create non-negotiable standards. We're going to decide what emotion you actually want to receive. You want to receive from your guests. You want your guests to feel. We're going to decide that. And then we're going to work our way backwards and design an experience that your guests can't live without. You're going to walk away with a playbook, with the process that allows you to start practicing, which will create that loyalty. Because the reality is, cars are not purchased online. Now, I know some are, but the majority of customers are still coming into your dealerships. The majority of your customers are doing all their research online, and when they walk through your door, they know exactly what they want, and your only job is to create an experience. That's it. The road to the sale is not the same anymore because the guest, they've already sold themselves. It's your job to be intentional, to design a process that allows each and every single team member to deliver an experience that wows your guests, that makes them feel special, that takes those feelings of anxiety. Depressed is on there too, which is crazy, but anxiety, depression, frustration, takes those negative cortisol-filled hormones and turns them into something that your guests want to be a part of. I thought the best way to demonstrate that was through this story, and I was really, truly hoping that I would have had a better experience almost a decade later, and what I have been quoted on still remains true. You get a better experience purchasing a $7 latte than you do purchasing a $70,000 vehicle. And in our instance, a six-figure vehicle. It shouldn't be happening, and I don't want any of your guests to receive that. So I give you one challenge today. Pick a touch point, whether it's the F&I interaction, wait time, the greet, whatever touch point you are struggling with. And you know what? Your guests tell you exactly where you're dropping the ball. So look at those surveys. Look at your Google reviews. See what your guests are saying. Choose that touch point. Talk about it with your team. Ask your team to innovate. Ask them, how can we improve this touch point so our guests feel excited to do business with us? That's the moment of truth, is when you can make your guests feel good about giving you their money. That's the way to their pocketbook, is through the feelings. It's through their heart. It's through excitement. So what are you going to do today to make your guests feel special? Actually, I'm going to put it in here. Drop it in the chat here if you're listening. I know we have our usuals like Doug and Tracy and Allison is on here. And I know that Jamie is on here. What are you going to do today to make your guests feel special? Drop it in the chat. Let's share that with everybody. Again, our summit is happening October 7th and 8th. We are almost sold out. Allison, I think, what are we? 5 tickets from sellout? I can't remember exactly it, but it's incredible. If you want a ticket, please feel free to visit nowisnonnegotiable.com/summit. This is where you'll get your tickets. Come join the movement of creating an experience your customers can't live without. I believe there is 5 P's to profit, promise to profit. So we'll talk about the promise. We'll talk about your principles. We're going to talk about process, how to practice it. We're going to give you all those tools, which will result in your profit. All right, y'all. Have an incredible Wednesday. Do me a favor and turn your experiences right side up. Start giving the customer a voice. Talk about the customer and what they need or want in an experience, because the reality is it is not about you. It is about them. All right, Allison says 5 tickets to sell out. So hop on nowisnonnegotiable.com/summit and grab your tickets. Oh, wait, we have something. Tracy, yesterday I started revisiting our KPIs with huddles and have an accountability process with it to ensure the message is continued. Yes, we got to hold each other accountable. Fantastic, Tracy. That makes me feel so excited and happy. Allison says here, I am finalizing all of our nurture emails to our attendees. Oh my gosh, I cannot wait for every attendee to experience the Now Summit, because we are going to deliver an incredible experience to every one of our guests while we teach and mastermind about it. Amazing, Allison. I love it. There's always a way to make someone feel good. Be a day maker. All right, y'all, have an incredible week. I look forward to being with you next week. It'll be probably Friday. We're going to be moving the live Friday because we are with one of our clients and we like to be focused. All right, y'all, have a good one. Take care, and I'll see you at the Now Summit if you're ready for a movement change, if you're ready for a mindset change, because unreasonable hospitality is a mindset, it is a decision, and it is a choice. Make that choice today. All right. Bye, y'all.